on this computer.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, welcome everybody. Episode number 2. So today we have Aidan Butterworth come along to have a discussion with us about his journey today. We have known each other for, I was thinking about this today, it'd be since we were 16, and I don't want to say how old we are, since it's like a long time, close to 26 years. So, yeah, got some war stories. I don't know if we'll touch on those. He's probably got other war stories from his history, but these are well, good times in the younger days. But I'll let Aidan introduce himself and give us a bit of his story, and then we'll just get into it. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. It's great to see you after it's been a long time, obviously. But yeah, it's good to have you on board. And your, I suppose, past is a different path to lots, but also a similar journey to a lot of people at the same time. So it's going to be very interesting talking about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, mate. It's like you said, mate, it's awesome to kind of catch up and touch base again after probably being so long. I guess one memory comes back pretty quickly, but we won't touch on that. Of when we had a good catch up. So
Leave that for the next time we catch up. We get a bit more comfortable.
Definitely. Like you said, like I guess my journey's probably been somewhat different to the norm. But then I guess there's probably a lot that it's almost exactly the same. So I grew up in Matamata, moved to Mount Maunganui, where I met yourself and the rest of the lads. And then after finishing Mount College, joined the army at 19 years old. So so that was September 2000. I joined the army as communications or signals operator. For those of you that know MASH, it's radar off MASH. Did the same as him. And
reaching back in time now.
And it ended up serving 15 years in the army. Did a couple of tours overseas, East Timor and Afghanistan. And then trade changed while I was in the army. So changed from communications to being a physical training instructor, which is, for me, it was the sole reason why I joined the army. It took me a long time to kind of get there. I was having a lot of fun, learned a hell of a lot, did some great things, did a lot of stupid things at the same time. And then was it 2015, I ended up leaving the army as a physical trainer, and got an opportunity to kind of, I guess, start our own strength and conditioning business. So got out then, moved back to Tauranga and started the business, and it was awesome actually. So so that started that in 2016. Mahi Performance, which is still operating today. And it was a lot of hard grafting. Didn't know a thing about business. I knew how to train people. That was probably about it. And so I had to kind of learn the fast way on how to run a business, and it's still something that I'm learning today. So, and adding on to that is most recently into my second season as strength and conditioning coach for the Waikato Bapini Magic Netball team. So, yeah,
it's very good. It's very good. One of the things I can sort of remember from when we were at school, you always talked about physical education, and there was a potential opportunity, I think, of maybe being a teacher in that aspect, which I thought was a bit crazy because teachers obviously were never beneficial at the time we were at school. But it sort of made sense, and it's good to see you finally got to where you needed to go. Yeah, it's a long road, isn't it? 15 years in the army. But also, I suppose there's a lot of things that have happened in between there. You've done a lot of coaching as well in the rugby scene for, I think, is it the army or?
Yeah. So when I became a trainer, a lot of opportunities came up. So I guess physical trainers across the Defence Force, so Air Force, Army, Navy, a lot of kind of organisations, sports teams come to us because of the skill set that we offer. So as part of that, like, I had the opportunity to work with the Crusaders and so on, which is usually like, it might be for like a few hours or something like that. When I was in Wellington, got to work with the Hurricanes for about 5 days, which was great. But I guess in an actual strength and conditioning space, has got the role as the assistant trainer to the Defence Blacks. So the Defence Blacks are the Defence Force rugby team, and so they play in a Defence Force World Cup every 4 years. So it comes around the same time as the Rugby World Cup, and it's played in the same country. And from memory, there's about 12 nations that play in it, all part of the Commonwealth. And so 2015, we went to England, and I was the assistant trainer for that. And it was a great opportunity, awesome. Got to play in France at one of their massive stadiums there. Absolutely annihilated them 55-0. And played the Belgium national team. We beat them, which is pretty cool. And then got into the Defence Force World Cup and came away 4th in the end. But it was great, and that was kind of topped off with watching the All Blacks win the World Cup final at Twickenham. So that's definitely one off the bucket list ticked off.
Yeah, definitely cool journey in that aspect, and being able to be involved in that. I'm not the most avid sort of watcher of rugby. I do like watching the All Blacks and sipping beers. But there is one thing that I've found that's come out of the All Blacks is Richie McCaw, I suppose, as a person. He's got a biography. I think it's called Chasing Great. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I have to say that is probably the best. I read a lot, and I watch a lot of documentaries and biographies and stuff. And his is sort of top class. Just how he's sort of structured himself. You know, that psychological thing was just so key. Like, and a lot of people don't understand that it's everything in life, isn't it? Like your fears or your anxieties are played on, and if you don't tap into them correctly, you're always going to hold yourself back.
Yeah.
So I suppose you probably learn a lot of that in the army to a certain degree, and then had to sort of teach people that, I suppose. Yeah.
You're bang on. Like, I guess I think the military's probably evolved since I've left. So I've been out for, I think it's about 6 years now. No, 7 years. And I guess how we learned was you had to adapt, and you had to get mentally strong just through what you got put through. Not saying that everything was incredibly difficult or anything like that, but you underwent like a lot of challenges, whether it was just kind of performing the duties of your job or the activities that you did. But at the same time, they gave you the tools on how to, I guess, develop that mental resilience. And I think it's hugely beneficial for everybody, but not everybody can, I guess, develop the same amount of resilience. That's correct or not, I'm not 100% sure. And what I've learned more so through sport is the mental aspect is, like you said, is massive. And I think we underestimate on how much that plays in our performance. And at the same time, not only is it beneficial for sports people, for athletes, but I think it's beneficial for everybody. If you look at like yourself, like I read a lot about successful business people and sports and so on, and I think those traits are carried across almost every industry, regardless of what you're at, where you're at. They just have the similar attributes and mental strength or resilience to kind of do what they do to the best that they possibly can. So.
That's very true, yeah. And I think when you look at it from very successful businessmen, sports people, you know, discipline is key. You know, like you can have, I think I talked about this in the last one. You can have motivation, but you also need that underlying discipline, which I may not have all the time.
Yes, indeed.
You know, it's always easy to do the easy stuff, rather than just do a little bit more to get the hard bits. But you know. That's sort of how it works, I suppose, in life. Sometimes you've got to push boundaries, and sometimes you just got to have a moment and relax. You know, have your own time, whatever that may be. So I suppose if we talk about the army piece of the puzzle, I suppose, because it was early, you know, and you sort of start, you know, you start at 19. It's a very, very different journey, you know, than like the rest of us took. I think I only knew one other person that was in the school that went into the army, and I don't think he lasted as long as yourself. You know, 15 years is a career in itself, isn't it? It's a huge journey. So, if someone's sort of listening to this, would you advise them on that path? And I suppose there's a piece of it as well as, and I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he talks to Navy SEALs, and it's like, oh, they just get punished and they do this and do that. And I'm pretty sure it's nothing like that at all. People are like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be like dying in the ocean at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, even I don't want to do that. Yeah, like I think if you're not sure where you want to go, or you want to get a trade, or you want to get some skills, I think it's a great opportunity. I guess in this day and age, especially here in NZ, like I think if you're going to get a trade, I would say go and join the Defence Force and get through the Defence Force. You get the same skill set as everybody else does, but you probably get paid better, better than an apprentice. And you get to do it with a whole lot of mates. You get you have mates on the job side and stuff like that, but it's a whole different type of friendship that you get in the military. Like you probably would have heard of camaraderie, and that's the biggest thing. You literally do everything together, and you're shoulder to shoulder, whether it's male or female, doesn't really matter. But you kind of just go through. You'll learn those skills and you'll implement them, and then you'll go and do activities outside of work, and you'll probably get to do your job in environments and countries and different parts of New Zealand that most people probably wouldn't. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the tradies end up heading down to, and other service people end up heading down to the Hawke's Bay to help out down there. So you might have plant operators that are driving diggers and so on. You'll have plumbers, builders, sparkies, all of that heading down there just to kind of help out. And those that are apprentice will be getting, those tickets signed off while they're giving back to the community at the same time.
Yeah.
And still getting paid for it. So the beauty is, if you turn up sick, then you're still going to get paid. So it's fantastic. But you can't pull sickers.
No, well,
yeah.
Yeah. That's sorry, go.
When you talk about all the Navy SEALs and stuff, like it's the military can be hard. Like it is hard for some people. For me, I guess I had a disciplined upbringing, so there wasn't much of a change from home life.
No life.
It was pretty easy. But I really enjoyed it. I loved every moment of it. I was only probably towards the end that I probably got a little bit tired of it. But when you mentioned Navy SEALs, I was actually fortunate enough to kind of work with our special forces. So I worked with them for 6 years.
Oh,
yeah. And those guys are next level. So when you talk about Navy SEALs just getting absolutely thrashed, these guys, in their initial training aspects, they're put under the pump. They're put under huge amounts of stress and pressure. And I guess that's how they get the results that they want. And you're working with the best of the best. And the only thing that you can do is actually, or you've got two options. You can either operate at the same level that you always have and not be any better, and then you'll get pretty found out, and then they'll just move you on and you go, hey, see you later, thanks a lot. Or you can kind of step up to meet them and operate the best that you can to serve them. Obviously, me being in communications, that was my role alongside them, and when you do that, you earn the respect from these guys and girls that are just exceptional operators. And they treat you like their own, and then you just kind of, and that becomes part of you, really. You live and breathe their tenets and their values, and it's just, it's awesome. It was definitely one of the highlights of my 15 years. It was great.
It's definitely interesting that you put it like that. Like there's a true belief out there, and I don't know if it's correct. I have beliefs in it that if you surround yourself with a certain group of people that will elevate you, you will always reach for higher levels to accommodate, and it's I suppose the same for them. You're always going to be doing something slightly different. You're going to be bouncing different things off each other. But if you're in the other opposites aspect of it, and you're hanging around with people that potentially aren't as go-getter, and you may not get the benefits out of that because you're not reaping the rewards of their knowledge or education or discipline, and or the craziness, I suppose, to succeed. Yeah, it's interesting when you do a lot of research into different people. You look at Elon Musk and stuff like that, and Richard Branson, and Donald, what's his name? Donald Trump. That's crazy. Warren Buffett. Those guys are just the pinnacle of each of their sort of aspects, and the dedication they put into it. And they surround themselves with people, and they do the research, they do the reading, and so it's a good key point to take away from anything, isn't it? Like you put the work in, you surround yourself with good people, and you always have that support. But in your aspect, like you have to be at that next level, because if you're going somewhere with them, it's your life and their life. Like it's a total different thing that I'd probably never understand. Like doing a couple of tours would be quite different as well. Eye opening.
And it was like, I guess, like anyone that wants to achieve anything, you set goals. And I'm a big believer of that. And so during that time of my career, one of my goals that I set was actually to go overseas with them. And I was fortunate enough to do that. And like you said, it was a massive eye opener. And that was in Afghanistan. And just, I guess, having worked alongside them in New Zealand and seen how far they kind of take themselves and the standards that they set and maintain. And it's no different when you go overseas. They just execute it really, really well. And so what you're trying to do is match that and ensure that they can do what they need to do, and have all the support that they need if anything does go wrong. And I guess the cool thing is that when you met other nations like the Americans, because we do quite a bit of work with them, is their special forces are no different. I guess the beauty of us is because we're such a small nation, when we actually deploy into those environments and the work that we do, it gets recognised quite a lot. And because we're actually quite a small task force, and we got quite a lot of recognition, and even the guys and girls that went after us was exactly the same. That the sheer amount of work that we did for such a small force, people were just going, "What the hell, man? You guys are incredible!" So, and our SAS soldiers are there on the same tier as your Navy SEALs, so which is pretty cool. So,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because you don't movies glamorize or put them in the limelight as the Americans, and they've got all the whiz bangs, haven't they? Like the amount of money they put into that, like the army, the trillions every year. It's crazy. That's great. It's great to hear. And I suppose the whole point of having this podcast is to shine a light on those areas that people just don't hear about. Like it's they're there, and the people are doing a really good job, and they're supporting us. And the thing is, at the end of the day, I think you talked about giving back, and I think joining the army in general, yes, it gives you life skills, but at the same time, you're actually giving back to everybody in that country and potentially the world in a roundabout way. It's how people should view it, I suppose. So that's good. Yeah. It's good that you've managed to do that. I said, fuck, I would never be able to do that. I don't. Anyway, I've got I'm good at doing things, whatever they may be. So I suppose we'll start talking about the army transition to personal training. You touched on that, and I think, and it's not just related to, I suppose, you being in the army or any business. A lot of people in New Zealand are like I think 80% of businesses in New Zealand are small businesses, and people just give things a go, and a lot of people do very well, and a lot of people don't. And I think within 3 years, I think 75% of the small businesses have failed that have started within like that period of time. But they keep regenerating. There's so many of them. But what would you sort of say? And advice, I suppose, when you sort of started, what were the key things that you found like difficult and would sort of do again, I suppose, in a different light?
In this industry here, I guess probably the one thing I found hard is just not understanding business at all. Was probably the biggest thing. So what did I need to put in place in order to operate really? And so I had to kind of seek that information out to figure out what that was, and then how do I
just to touch on that? How did you go about getting that information? Like talk to people, your research?
Yeah, I'd probably just kind of had chat to my parents and going, who do I talk to? Yeah, because account finance is a big one. So is finding an accountant to kind of talk to and provide that guidance. Okay, what do I need to set up? where do I start, and all this stuff, and then just getting that sorted, because the finance is probably the big one. Like, you've got to get money coming in. And that was probably another hard one. I was so used to working for someone else and just getting a paycheck every week. It's like, well, how do I generate income? Like, how do I get people to want to come and train with me, and so on? And I guess reflecting on that now is, if I was to do it again, I'd like, in the fitness industry anyway, I'd suggest to anyone that's coming in is have like a part-time job that'll supplement all your daily expenses or your weekly expenses, and then do this on the side until you can transfer out of part-time and go full-time. That would be probably my main recommendation. Or make sure that you have and you can generate enough revenue or income to go to it full-time, and that it's consistent. And so that's sitting down and looking at the finances or the accounting side and going, okay, what are my expenses for the business? What are my expenses that I need to live week to week? And then how much income do I need to generate from that? Is that so many clients? And then how are you going to, that's probably the biggest thing that I've probably learned. And then, because people talk about, well, why are you doing it for, or what's your point of difference? I think that there comes later. It's in again, you can work on that while you're just getting money through the door. And then that's when you've got enough money coming through the door, that's when you start working on that and tailoring who your target market is, and so on from there.
So just to touch on that finance piece, so start, obviously, you just want to get money in general. Do you now, after I think you said 6 or 7 years, are you now putting like sort of year or 2 year sort of plans together about how you're structuring and what you sort of want to achieve now in that?
Yeah, definitely. That's probably been a bit of a weak point for me. I've probably just kind of fumbled my way through the years, and it's only probably this last probably maybe 18 months to 2 years where I've gone, okay, where do I want to take Mahi Performance, what I want it to be, and who do I want to work with. And so that's now we're starting to kind of put that plan in place and really start kind of honing in on who it is that we're going to work with. And that's taken me years to kind of figure out. Like, I've kind of just tried different things, and but for me, it's always been that I've come back to sport. So it's targeting that. It's in going, and it's not necessarily your elite athletes, because I think that market's, well, in New Zealand, is just too small, and they just don't have any money. So
yeah, well, and that's a massive problem, isn't it? But
it's
a whole different conversation.
Yeah. And so for me, it's sport in general. So it's people that want to be just better at their sport, and it's athletes at the same time. So so it's really good. It's quite promising, I think. And here in Tauranga, like, it is unreal how many talented young athletes there are. Obviously, yourself and I were pretty talented back in the day. Just
pinnacle of health.
Exactly.
Just so athletic, it was amazing.
Just didn't quite work out.
No. Well, you're doing all right. You're coaching the Magic like that. In the context of, like in New Zealand, success, getting into something like, as you said, is extremely hard. It's so limited. So, once you've got in there and you can get stuck into it, then you've got the next steps out of that, whatever that may be, but you've got a higher level, and you're seen in a different light. So
and I think
it's all stepping stones.
Yeah, exactly. And this role here with the Magic, I'd actually written it off the cards. I was thinking, that ship has sailed, but I was actually quite happy. I was exceptionally happy working with our young athletes, who are doing well. Like, some of the athletes we have are representing New Zealand.
Nice.
Which is like just like 16 years old and they're representing their country. It's absolutely incredible. So, and then so I was like, hey, I'm happy with doing that. I'll just kind of keep grinding away at that and support these young athletes. And then next thing you know, I get a phone call. And I'm interviewing, and then a few days later, I've got the job. So it was completely out of the blue, but at the same time, like, I love the opportunity. As talking to you, like, majority of the environments that I've worked in have all been male dominated. So to step into a female environment it's actually really refreshing. I really enjoy it. I love the difference, or stepping out of the male environment into the female. Like it's a different kettle of fish. It is. It's you can't. What I've learned is with males, you can have a little bit of ego and be a bit of bravado, and you'll fit in. With a woman, it doesn't work like that. It's like you've got to build trust. And that trust takes longer than what it does with the guys. But then once you have their trust, man, they'll just give you everything. It's next level. It's pretty cool. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Really. It's, talking about trust, would you find it harder for the SAS guys to get their trust, or a woman doing training?
I definitely the SAS guys like that. If I put it in context, put it in context. I guess it's different because the girls only had me, didn't have anyone else. So that
nothing.
I didn't do it. That might have taken maybe a few weeks to a month to kind of build that trust. With the SAS guys, I remember this really clearly. It was about 18 months. So there was me keeping my mouth shut, doing what I was told, doing the best that I could. And the way that I'd realised that I'd built their trust as they started talking to me, and they knew my name. oh, okay.
That's the crack of it. Probably knew your name. They were just like, I'm not going to talk to him. Oh, it's gold. It's gold. There we go. So, what are other ways you've sort of navigated the business aspect? Have you found anybody that's sort of, I suppose, a peer or someone to look up to within the industry? Obviously, that it's a different beast, and I suppose it's quite competitive. So, it would be hard to find that alliance, I suppose, if you weren't in a partnership. But have you managed to?
I don't know. I don't know if I've found an alliance. It was really hard. Like I don't feel like I kind of looked up to anyone in the industry. I just kind of fumbled my way through it. Spoke to a lot of people. In all honesty, I probably took too much advice. I probably spoke to too many people. And so everything that I was getting, it was the same type of thing, but I just didn't know what to do with it or where to go with it. And especially for the last couple of years is actually probably just believing in myself that I've got the skills and the ability to actually achieve what I want to achieve. It's probably the most important thing. I think if you go into it and you don't have that, then I think you're just, or to put it bluntly, pushing shit uphill.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I listened to this podcast. It's really good. It's called the U Project, and it's very interesting because he talks about it. He goes, like, you can read till the cows come home, you can do degrees, but if you do not do the work physically, you will never understand it. And it's like, and that was sort of the straws on this. I researched it to its nth degree, and I was just like, I just need to do it. There's still things that I still need to do, like platforms and things that will unfold in the future, and making marketing and branding. But I've got the basic stuff, and it's working. And the more you talk to people, the better you get. It's not going to be good. Like, I'll reflect, I'm sure, on these in the years to come and go, the fuck was going on here? but that's what makes it better, though, doesn't it? No? If you don't do it, you don't reflect on what you've done, you'll never get better. And the plan for all of these is in the future is to come back and talk to people again and just see how they're going and the differences and the changes and just the evolution, I suppose, of everything, because that's one of the key things about. So we're not going to do like a research project, but how you go from here to here. It's like, well, what has changed, and how is this going to help other people? And that's the whole point of it, is because I like talking to people and I like understanding things. And that's so the balance of life, because obviously just before we started this conversation, you said you got home at 8. So what does a normal day look for you? Is it you get up at a time and it sort of blends into hours and lunch and eating broccoli and chicken?
Oh, definitely not eating broccoli and chicken. No way. I don't know, like with netball, like that's made the days longer. So so the netball season, so pretty much I'm with the team from about October through till June. So Kevin, what's that? 9 months, 8, 9 months, something like that.
Oh, it's a huge season. I suppose you got to do the before and you do a bit of after, do you, mate? Yeah, mate.
Yeah, they pretty much once we finish the season, we'll have prize giving, and then I think the Silver Ferns go on. So it's a little bit like the All Blacks. So the players from the ANZ Champion or Premiership will go into the Silver Ferns, and then they'll play. I think it's World Cup this year, so they'll go away to that. And the rest of the players, they just go back to work as normal, or so on, or they'll keep training and stuff like that. So there's a bit of downtime, and then we just work in the background. Yeah. So during we're in season now, so we've got our second game this weekend. So a typical week is Monday, or for Mahi Performance anyway, that operates 5 days of the week. And so we have like individual clients. We've got our academy for our young athletes.
Is that Monday to Friday?
No, the academy is run, that's 3 days a week. So I'm up early, say 4 o'clock on a Monday and a Friday morning. And then I'll be at work by 6, and I'll generally finish at about 6 on those, or 5 or 6 those days.
It's like preschool training, is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So majority of people in the industry, or if you're working with clients or athletes or whatever, it's generally in those peak times, which is early in the morning, and then generally in the evening. So generally pick up kind of one-on-one clients during the day. So I'll generally do half my day in the gym and then spend the other half of the day in netball. But netball, we only come together 3 days a week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Tuesday and Wednesday are longer days. So we've got a big training block on Tuesdays, 12:30 till 6 p.m. And then Wednesdays from 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. So on that Wednesday, we have 2 blocks. So we've got an early afternoon and then an evening block. And the evening block, we play a game. So play a full netball game. And then we've just thrashed the girls before that. So, and then Thursday is in the morning. So it's from 9:30 till 1:30. And that's them. And then we kind of go. But as the season progresses, is that just shifts left and right, because then we've got the girls want to have to travel for a game, or we'll travel, like if it's, say, this weekend's games here in Tauranga. So we'll come in together the night before, we'll spend the night together and then the whole day together leading into the game. And then we'll generally depart after the game, depending on what time it is. But I keep Mahi going the whole time, but it doesn't shut down. So it's just a big balancing act. But when I got the job with the Magic, the beauty of that was it meant that I had to bring someone on board to fill in the slot that I couldn't, or the slots that I couldn't fill. So that's allowed us to kind of grow our team, which has been great. And then we've actually got another coach due to come on board into this month, which is quite cool. So
yeah, it's good. I think that's that true, the real truth of having a business. It's functional. You have some staff, and you get to have a bit of a moment.
Yeah.
You know, just standing up, we can have a moment for a day. Yeah. Which is good too. It's very positive, you know. It's obviously been going very well over that period of time, which is great. And then what happened? You still doing rugby then? Because obviously rugby seasons are stretching every year as well, aren't they?
Yes, and now like a couple, what was it, 2-3 years ago now, I kind of stepped away from rugby. It just had too much of an impact on the family. So, you know, when you've got 2 trainings a week, which is from, I'd be there at 5 o'clock and then wouldn't get home till 8.
Yeah.
So just, you know, and then Saturday you're gone all day. So, and then, you know, that doesn't get like 5 o'clock. So stepped away from that. And to be honest, like, I find that a lot of club players don't see the value in what we do as well, or they're just there recreationally. Yeah. So if we get footy players now, they generally reach out to us, and then we kind of go from there, which is really good. So so it's generally with our academy within Mahi Performance, we pick up just a variety of sports from arm wrestling, volleyball, mini stocks. You'll love.
I suppose it's big in Tauranga, isn't it? So,
yeah. football, netball. We actually had a paracyclist, so he had his arms weren't fully formed, and this kid is unreal, man. Like he set a New Zealand record March last year, and he's in his last year of school this year. Just unbelievable. Canoe slalom, kayak sprinting, like just a whole range. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, because I suppose you have your focus is on sport. So I suppose it's not just generic, let's go to the gym and get fit type of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good, because then it gives you a different way of, thinking about, obviously there is strength and conditioning for each sort of section of the body, but then what you actually need to do with your body in that,
Yeah.
This is very interesting, yeah. So, while we're talking about strength and conditioning, what do you say are the big, movements that you would tell someone to do if they wanted to, get quite sturdy and, I suppose, longevity of their life more than anything, move functionally?
Yeah. So, like, knowing a bit about your background and your training, what training that you've done, I know, I know CrossFit has, for a lot of people, or for some people, I should say, has a bit of a bad stigma. But I guess the foundational movements they do is your squat, your push, your pull. And what I mean by push and pull is, or for your push, that might be bench press or overhead press, or for pull, it might be a bend over row or a deadlift or a pull up. Those things there are your big bang for buck things. Like as the name suggests, that's your foundation. And that's what I always fall back to is if you can tick those boxes, then that's you're building a really solid platform to kind of work everything else off. From just a general health and well-being side of the house, is those movements are the things that you do every day. So whether you're getting up and down off the couch or the toilet, or whether you're walking up,
not after you've done squats.
Yes, true. It's agony. Whether you're walking up a hill or walking up a flight of stairs, whether you're picking something up at home, picking your kids up, they're movements that they might not be exactly the same, but you're going to encounter them in some way, shape, or form. And in sports, they're the foundation of all sporting movements as well. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And what I have learned over the years is just keep it simple. So if you start from there, you just add things on from there.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's all about just moving functionally, isn't it? One thing I do like to add to that is the old power cleans. It gives you a bit of explosive movement.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be heavy. Just enough to know, keep it going. So that's good. It's good. It's and I think that's the cool thing. I did a lot of research into it. I wasn't into exercise, and then got onto the CrossFit quite heavily and nutrition. And then I did a lot of research. And if you look at sort of Arnie and what he did, it's the same things. It's all the same core stuff, mate. It's very interesting. So they obviously do other stuff around it, but those are the main lifts to get the big muscles moving.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So as you say, just don't change too many things. You got to make sure you do street cycles and stuff like that. You can't do the same thing over and over and over, because that's just never going to work.
Yeah.
Never. Well, it's going to keep you moving, but it's not going to push you. Because you want to trick your muscles and make them.
You're not going to evolve, and like the saying goes, you can't keep doing the same thing, expect a different result. So
exactly right. So I suppose, what would you, if you were going to do a few different things again? What would you, if you were younger yourself, young Aidan? Shouldn't do these things, we should do these things, or maybe try something else. What would those sort of, what would you say?
Oh, geez.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, like about business or just kind of everything?
Just everything in general,
Probably I had a lot of fun, but I'd probably be not wiser about it, but if anything, is probably use your finances better. Like, be smart about how you use them. Like, have fun, by all means, have fun. I probably took that into excess, especially during my army days. and you and I have a few memories of those. So
yeah, that's right.
And part of the reason I say that is I had mates in the army that did a lot of traveling, and that so they took time, during the army career and went overseas and stuff like that. It's not something that I did. So if anything, I'd say is use your finances smarter, have a lot of fun, and at the same time is start setting yourself up for the future. And that so like you earn, when I joined the army, like they earn a pretty good wicket now compared to when I joined. And so you can I believe you earn enough to kind of start setting yourself up. And whether that's, buying a house or starting a business or starting a family, whatever it may be, is start when you're young. Do the hard yards then, and then life will be easier down the track.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's, you don't, and I feel this is a fundamental issue in school, is they don't really give you that understanding of money, and I suppose you're just too young to really understand what you need to know. Like I had some opportunities that worked out beneficial for me with some cheap properties, but not a lot of people have that opportunity. I saved a bit of money, so but yeah, I worked apprenticeship, and I started working when I was 13, petrol stations, because I wanted money and I wanted to buy a car and I wanted to buy things and I wanted their money. But a lot of people won't do that now. It's just not built into them, And then when I did my apprenticeship, I didn't have any money, so I was working a Sunday at the petrol station because I got paid, it was $5 an hour or $6, and then at the petrol station I was getting like $10.50, And I was like, well, if I give this up, it's actually quite a lot of money. Yeah. So, I did that for quite a few years until I got just about qualified, and I said, fuck this. You get more money, and you're like, I just don't want to be doing it. And then, no cashies move for years. Yeah. That was the tax man. Sorry, help people out. For a period of time, and you just get to the point of that too. You just get over it, and you're like, you just don't want to do it. You want to spend your time doing other stuff, it just becomes so onerous, like you need to have some time to yourself. And I think that's one of the things I probably, I'd say regret, but looking back in time, that like you see a lot of people now, kids are younger, and it's not like we didn't have money. We worked, not all of us worked, but we could have went on holidays. We could have popped to Australia and had a great time, I think. Why didn't we do that? But it just wasn't something that was in the front of our minds at the time. So totally. So it's sort of a little bit envious of people that end up doing that, have that gap year, and they do all those bits and pieces. I don't know. It works for some people, it doesn't for others. But I suppose as you say, you get opportunities.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like talking to a lot of young people on that's there's so many different views, especially when you're talking about study and stuff. Some are just like no, go straight to university if that's where you want to go, and then some others are, I'll take a gap year and kind of and then come back and crack into it. So there's no right or wrong path. It's just whatever works for you.
Exactly right. And you touched on it earlier about if you want to educate yourself, you can go into the armed forces, get paid for it. And the thing is, it's not just about trades as well. They'll give you you can do degrees. They give you time off, and they'll pay for it. You might sign up for a little bit longer, but you're going to get the education out of it. And you're going to do some life skills at the same time. But you don't have to do a degree to do well. And tradies do exceptionally well now. I'm an electrician by trade, but then I did a degree post it. But doing both of those has given me a total different outlook on life. If I didn't do the trade, I wouldn't be the person I am today. But if I didn't do the degree, I definitely would not be the person I am today. I probably would got quite stuck in my old ways because I didn't know anything about the world at all. Didn't know anything about finance or trading or stock investments or business in general. It's just something you don't get taught. And if you're not born into a family that has, I won't say business, but the understanding or the investment principles, you just don't get it. So, you have to find your own way, which makes it harder. But, it's good to learn that a lot of people do get stuck, in their still 18 and they're fucking 40 or 50, you know, like they're still living that same life, and they're happy. They want to live their life, but I don't think they do. They just get stuck.
Oh, and that's I totally agree with that. It's like, you know, I don't know how people do that. It's definitely. I'm probably like you, sitting there going, you know, you always, well, I wouldn't say you're always kind of searching for more, but you're like, you know, you want to learn more.
Yeah. No, I actually picked this book up, and it's an interesting concept. It's called The Art of Happiness, and it's about the Dalai Lama's learnings, and a guy that followed him. He's a psychologist. He's painted into this book over all sorts of stuff, and I've only just got it, and it's really interesting because, you know, people search for a thing. You know, we'll call it happiness, which is what everyone wants. But the thing is, that one of the first thing is in the book, and he said, like, you have to work for happiness. Like, you're not going to find it and it's just going to be there forever. Like, it's just not going to fucking happen. You have to continually work in it. Everything in life, you know, you got to put the effort in to continue it. So, but you may not find the piece of happiness that you're after, but you need to contextually look at what actually makes your life good and go, well, no, I am happy to certain degrees, and, you know, and what are the other pieces I want, and how am I going to find that?
And that's the fact that you say work is like, or if everyone that I kind of read or look into, and if, you know, or a successful person, I should say, look into, it's the same thing. It's like they've had to work to get to where they are today. Some have just had probably more opportunities than others, but at the end of the day, they still have to work, and they have to continually work at it. It's not like, okay, I'm here now, I can stop. It's like, no, legitimately, you know, like you said, Warren Buffett, you know, he's still, you know, still going at it, 70 years old plus.
I think he's 80 now. And as his mate Charlie's, I think, pushing 90. But and a lot of his, and I suppose because he has to understand business, but he reads like 80% of his day. I'd love to do that. Like, I actually think it's interesting, not non-interesting stuff. But so but I've been on and off reading forever, and that's one of my things is that I made a decision. It's quite a few years ago, and I peak and trough, but every night before I go to bed, I do at least 10 minutes of reading. And that's this thing I sort of decided a while back. You know, it's the 1%. If you change 1% of your life, you know, just every now and again, it doesn't have to be daily. It can be a week or, you know, a fortnight or a month. It's going to compound. And there is a saying that someone actually else told me, and I didn't know this until I researched it, because I see this as, you know, the way I'm looking at it. And the Japanese have a thing called Kaizen. It's the same thing. So it's continual improvement, which it turns into long-term growth. You know, like you just got to do it, and it's like training. You just got to continually train. You got to build yourself psychologically and physically. So, also nutrition.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, I was going to add anything to that is that consistency. Listening, it doesn't matter how big or small it is, but it's how consistent you are. If you can consistently do that 1%. Day after day or week after week, is something, like you said, it compounds. And I've actually read it, and I can't actually remember, they say, like, if you read something like 15 minutes a day over the course of a year, it compounds into like X number of books. And it's just like, well, why wouldn't you do that? I can't remember the book that I read it in. So,
it's all right. Send me the information and I'll post it up on the current social media stuff I have, and the future ones I will be making. But my plan is to do my own little segments as well, and I'm due one to talk about myself in the past, but also books and learnings, because through my leadership days with teams, I made it my goal to find information that was different and help support them. And, you know, there's just so much content out there on the internet, you know, like TED Talks, and then just other YouTube is just rife with information, and then, you know, books on just everything. But it's finding the right book. Like, and I'm a true believer, if you pick up a book and you start reading it and you just don't like it, just don't continue reading it. You know, like, potentially jump to another section and see if you like it. But if you don't like it, like, I've wasted forcing myself to read books and just gone, this is shit. But I've then also gone into books and jumped a bit into the future and gone, well, actually, this is good. It's a matter of getting the context of what they're trying to say. Like, you know, because some people are telling a story, they're not good at writing books. You know, like someone else has written a book on their story. So Yeah,
Actually
so
really
much
good.
continuity.
Yeah.
Is that sorry?
That's actually a really good tip. Like if you don't like it, either just go to another book completely, or jump ahead and see if you like that, and then if you don't, we'll make a decision. So
Yeah, exactly. All right. And I'm a big believer on the old library. So library gives you a month. You can extend it
yep.
for a month. So you're definitely reading a book in 2 months. Like you'll force yourself to do it.
Yeah,
Most of the time, if you get a really good book, you get a month. And you smash it out. But the problem is there's so many books. Like I've got a list of books I've read and a list of books I need to read. And then I'll walk in somewhere like that book. I just walked into Kmart, we're doing something, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. It was actually next to Dave Grohl's book. And I was like, oh, I'll buy that. And I looked at it and went, Art of Happiness. It's sort of,
I have,
what's the world is about. I'll just pick that up,
yeah,
$16. Why not? Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I have
And then I've,
read it too. Heard about it.
yeah, I don't know. The wife was looking at it today and she's like, did you get that book? I wanted that book for ages. I just couldn't find it. I was just on the shelf at Kmart. But yeah, one of these other books I picked up, just to get onto the topic of books in psychology, was a book random. I was in the library and I was like, I need a book. I've dropped one off and I picked this one up. And it was to do with money. It was called, I can't remember what it's called. I got it written down somewhere. But it was about a lady and money. And she's like,
Yeah,
anyway, I was like, that'd be interesting. I read it. Amazing. But it was about psychology and it was about how your subliminal mind and what you've been taught when you were younger from your parents,
yes,
like it, and that's what I was talking about before. If you aren't educated into the way of investing, like you don't know, and the things of how you're taught about money and money's like rather than having money and rather than having wealth and how you talk about it, like all that thing actually
yeah,
subliminally gets stuck in you and you have to try and get it out even though you don't know it's happening. But when you
yeah.
start going, hold on, that actually makes a lot of sense. It was really good. So come back to that psychological behavior, that's
And then like I've read that in is it Barefoot Investor, I think, in his book. I can't remember. I think he might talk about it in there.
oh yeah, I
But
don't think I've read that.
yeah,
Good.
he's got tips around investing and stuff like that for beginners. And but I read actually that same thing about the subliminal mind. And when I read that, I was sitting there going, that is bang on. Like how I perceive money in my younger days and even into my adulthood was exactly that. I was sitting there going, I have a perception of money and people with lots of it. And I was like, why do I think that?
Yeah.
And just went, actually, because, I kind of grew up and went, people that have tons and tons of money, they're sitting there, it's bad. And then now I'm sitting there going, actually, no, they've just worked really hard for it. I'm sitting there going, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyone can be like that.
That's right. And that is a great segue into another reason why I've got this fucking podcast, because everyone I've talked to, and you see it all the time, and I don't understand it. It's the whole tall poppy thing. Like, and I posted
Yeah,
this on my LinkedIn page the other day, and a guy, he's from England, and he said it's a problem in England. And I was talking to some Australians, and they said it's a massive problem. So I was like, hold on, I thought it was just a New Zealand thing, but it's
yeah,
actually like international problem. So people, I think, want to be handed shit on a plate. Like, I don't want to fucking work for it. I don't want to do the yards. And it's like, come on, you got to do something. It's like the problem is that there is a gap between like, and that's another reason for this is that I found that all of this shit we're getting on social media is like, I've got $100 million and I did this and I did that and I'm
yeah,
famous and I'm a movie star. And it's like, that's not reality. I did this. Just follow me, and then you're going to buy some platform that's just a load
yeah,
of crap.
yeah,
So you're like, you can talk to real people about real life and what's actually happened, and try and break down that stigma of just going, these are real people and they've done very well and they've worked most of their life in different aspects to find the way to get to where they are now.
yeah,
And that and we all are still working on ourselves. It's never going to stop.
yeah,
I've
totally,
got still got
exactly.
some very bad traits that I'm still working on, but it's as I said, it's still that subconscious. It embeds itself into you. So you got to chip away at it.
Yeah,
Make sure you do that 1% to try and erode some of that behaviour. So yeah,
you're
that's
right.
the whole next podcast. All the bad stuff we did that was fun.
It's never ending learning.
No. Okay, well, we've been talking for an hour, and I'm sure we could
Right.
talk for another hour quite comfortably. But to make it sort of manageable for them.
Yeah.
to choose some
awesome,
of this content out. But yeah, as I said, definitely thank you very much for coming. And it's good to see that the difference, like people are thinking about getting into both of those careers. It's two totally different things, but they transition so well. As you said, it's not just about the army, it's about how you go from here to here, and you actually use that as a vehicle the whole time to get to where you are now. So it actually makes sense, and that's a lot of forward planning for a 9. Probably at the time you thought about it, you're probably 18.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, it's actually some reasonably long-term planning, which not a lot of people do.
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it like that, but yeah, cheers.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If you don't, tell your story to others, you don't get that reflection point for others to go, actually, well, you did these things to get to this point. It all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Pieces of the puzzle. So yeah, no, definitely we'll come back around again. I don't know how long it's going to be. I've got other people to talk to, but it's always good to have a yarn about different things. And as I said, we can change up the next iteration to different things in life in general. Touch on just life, I suppose. I know I like a good Joe Rogan where you just talk about things that merge into other things, and people love me at work. I just start talking about something. They're like, "How did you go from here to there and then come back?" And I was like, "Lucky we got back because I forgot."
That is awesome.
The journey of my brain.
Oh,
but anyway, we'll wrap it up here, and thank you very much for your time. And
thanks heaps, mate.
And if anyone wants to get hold of an amazing strength and conditioning coach and just a generally nice person, reach out to myself, add some comments via YouTube, and I can hook you up.
Awesome. Thanks heaps, mate.
Sweet. All good.